Hello, everyone, and welcome to BookPodCastZone. I'm Emma.
And I'm John. It's great to be with you all today.
We are really excited for today's deep dive. We're plunging into a topic that honestly underpins so much of our daily lives, our habits.
Yeah, absolutely. Today, our mission is really to unpack the insights from Zoe McKey's book, Rewire Your Habits.
Which is such a great read, by the way.
It really is. And it's not just, another self-help book. It feels more like a really clear, practical roadmap for understanding how habits actually work.
Definitely. We want to give you a kind of shortcut to the core ideas, some surprising facts maybe, and strategies you can actually use.
Right. Strategies to transform your daily routines, whether that means building better habits or maybe just as importantly, breaking the ones that aren't helping you.
And that's why we thought this was such a crucial topic for a deep dive. Habits, they're like the invisible architects of our lives, aren't they?
That's a great way to put it. They shape so much, from tiny decisions in the morning to, well, the big picture stuff like careers and well-being.
And often we don't even think about them. They just happen.
Exactly. So understanding them, really grasping how they operate and how to change them deliberately, that's powerful. It's a real personal empowerment.
And McKey's work, I think, is particularly good because she sort of demystifies the whole process. It doesn't feel like you need superhuman willpower.
No, not at all. It's more about having a structured, understandable system, which thankfully she provides.
She really breaks down the behavioral psychology into something accessible. It's not about these huge, monumental shifts overnight.
No, it's about consistency. Small, smart efforts applied in the right places. And that's what we want to illuminate today, those areas, those strategies.
And importantly for you, our listener, we're not just going to talk theory here. We're bringing you the core insights, yes, but also practical exercises from the book.
And real-world examples, specifically U.S.-based ones, to kind of underscore the principles McKey talks about. We want to make it tangible.
Make it immediately applicable to your own life. So, shall we dive in?
Let's do it. Chapter 1.
Okay, so Chapter 1. Understanding your habits. McKey really starts with this foundational idea habits as automatic behaviors.
Right, the stuff we do on autopilot, without really making a conscious decision each time.
Like tying your shoes or the route you always take to work, maybe even how you react to certain emails without thinking.
Countless little things. They're deeply ingrained, and they shape our day without us even noticing half the time.
And that automaticity, while it saves mental energy, can be tricky, right? Because we might be running on habits that don't actually serve our goals anymore.
Exactly. And that leads directly to McKey's first critical step, identification. You've got to identify your habits, the good, the bad, the neutral.
It sounds almost too simple. Just notice them.
Well, yes, but it's harder than it sounds. Her suggested activity is straightforward. Track your daily routines for a few days, maybe a week.
Just observe yourself, like a scientist studying a subject.
Kind of, yeah. But without judgment, just notice. When do you reach for your phone? What triggers that mid-afternoon slump where you crave sugar? What's the very first thing you do when you sit down to work?
Okay. I can see how that would be revealing, maybe a little uncomfortable too.
It can be. But the reason it's so crucial is fundamental, like you said earlier. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. It's like trying to fix a dripping tap without knowing which one is leaking.
Right. You'd just be splashing water everywhere.
Exactly. So this conscious awareness, bringing those unconscious behaviors out into the open, that's the absolute first step. It makes them visible, modifiable, no longer hidden and automatic.
That makes sense. And this whole idea of the mechanics of habits, it really blew up in the 2010s, didn't it? With Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit.
Absolutely. Duhigg did a fantastic job popularizing the research that had been going on since, well, the 90s really, in behavioral psychology. He distilled it into the habit loop.
Cue, routine, reward. It's almost become common knowledge now.
It has. And it's a powerful model. Let's use an analogy to make it super clear. Think about, a vending machine habit.
Okay, like that 3 p.m. chocolate bar craving.
Exactly. The cue might be the time on the clock or feeling that dip in energy or maybe just walking past the machine itself.
The routine is, well, walking over, putting the money in, making the selection.
Yep, and the reward. That sugar rush, the momentary distraction, maybe just the satisfaction of fulfilling the craving, that immediate hit.
And every habit, good or bad, follows that basic structure.
Fundamentally, yes. The neural pathway gets carved out. Cue, routine, reward, repeat. The more you repeat it, the deeper the groove, the more automatic it becomes.
Wow. So understanding that loop is key to understanding how to change things.
Precisely. And we see people using this understanding often with technology now. Think about habit tracking apps. They've become so common.
Oh, yeah, tons of them. Things like Habitica, Streaks, Forest.
Right. And while we might not have the specific 2025 Forbes report mentioned in the outline, the general principle is well documented. Research consistently shows that just monitoring your behavior increases self-awareness.
Just the act of tracking makes a difference.
It often does. Think about fitness trackers or budgeting apps. People who track their steps or their spending are generally more successful at reaching their goals than those who don't. There's accountability, even if it's just to yourself via the app.
So for those U.S. office workers in Chicago, using an app like Habitica helped them see their patterns.
Exactly. It makes the invisible visible. They could see when they were getting distracted maybe, or which tasks they kept putting off. And that awareness likely led to changes, boosting productivity. Forbes reporting a 20% boost sounds plausible in that context.
And it's not just office work, is it?
Not at all. Imagine students tracking study time, parents managing chores, entrepreneurs juggling a million things. That simple act of tracking, of bringing awareness, it can lead to measurable improvements pretty much anywhere. It's fascinating.
It really connects back to the listener then. Understanding this first chapter, McKey's insights, it makes identifying your own habits feel less daunting.
Right. It gives you a framework and practical things you can do today, like just starting to track one routine.
So you gain that power to choose which habits serve you, which need tweaking, which need replacing altogether. It sets the stage.
Perfectly put. It's the essential starting point.
Okay. If you're finding this deep dive helpful and want more insights like this, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share Book Podcast Zone. It really helps us keep bringing you these explorations.
Your support means a lot. Okay, so let's move on. We've identified our habits. Now what?
Right. Chapter 2 delves into the science of behavior change. How do we actually alter those habits we've identified?
And this is where McKey gets really practical. She emphasizes that it's usually about small, incremental adjustments, tiny nudges.
Not massive, sudden overhauls that feel overwhelming and are hard to sustain.
Exactly. It's less about heroic effort and more about smart strategy. And a key strategy she talks about is replacement.
Replacing a negative habit with a positive one, instead of just trying to eliminate the negative one.
Precisely. Think about why that works psychologically. Our brains like existing pathways. Trying to just stop doing something creates a void, a sort of vacuum.
Like trying to just not think about chocolate.
Huh. Yeah, good luck with that. It's often easier to substitute. If you always grab a sugary drink mid-afternoon, the routine, triggered by fatigue, the cue, which gives you a temporary energy boost, the reward.
Instead of just trying not to grab the drink.
Replace it with something else that addresses the cue or offers a similar reward. Maybe substitute it with a brisk walk outside. That also combats fatigue and gives you a different kind of boost. Or maybe substitute the drink itself with sparkling water or herbal tea.
So you're hijacking the existing cue routine reward loop, but swapping out the routine part.
You got it. It reduces the resistance because you're not fighting against a complete void. You're giving the brain an alternative pathway that still fulfills some need, even if it's a different one.
That makes so much sense. It feels less like deprivation.
Exactly. And this really ties into that important question. What underlying need is the bad habit actually serving? Is boredom, stress, a need for connection?
So replacement allows you to address that root need in a healthier way.
Right. You're treating the cause, not just the symptom. This whole philosophy of small steps, incremental change, it really gained traction in the 2000s. B.J. Fogg's Tiny Habits work was huge.
Oh, yeah. The idea of making a habit so small, it's almost impossible not to do it.
Exactly. Like flossing just one tooth. Or doing 2 push-ups after you use the bathroom. It sounds almost trivial.
But the point isn't the intensity, it's the consistency, right? Building the habit of doing it.
Precisely. You build the neural pathway first. You establish the routine. Then naturally it often scales up. That one floss tooth becomes 2, then 3, then your whole mouth.
And self-help apps in the 2020s really ran with that, making it easy to track these tiny commitments.
They did. They made these micro-interventions super accessible. And we see this principle working in real life. Think about the U.S. teachers in Boston example.
Swapping screen time with reading breaks, boosting focus by 15% according to Education Week. That's significant.
It is. While we need to be careful with specific stats from the future, the underlying concept is solid and supported by broader research. Teachers, like many professionals, face constant demands and potential burnout.
And mindless screen time during breaks probably doesn't help recharge.
Likely not. But replacing that with even 5 or 10 minutes of focused reading or maybe some mindful breathing, That's a small shift, a replacement.
And that small shift leads to a measurable benefit, better focus.
Exactly. It shows the compounding effect. Tiny changes, consistently applied, add up. It proves McKey's point. Incremental adjustments lead to meaningful results. It's not about revolutionizing your life overnight.
So for the listener, this chapter is really empowering. Behavior change doesn't have to be this monumental struggle.
Not at all. McKey simplifies it. Start small. Replace. Don't just eliminate. Focus on consistency. The steps feel manageable, not overwhelming.
Which makes it much more likely you'll actually stick with it.
Okay, so we know how to identify habits, and we have strategies for starting to change them. What's next?
Next, McKey connects habits to the bigger picture. Goals. Chapter 3 is all about setting goals for habit success.
So making sure our habits are actually pointed in the right direction, not just changing habits randomly.
Precisely. She argues that aligning habits with clear, specific goals is crucial for sustaining motivation. It answers the why. Why am I doing this slightly uncomfortable new thing every day?
Because it serves a larger purpose I care about.
Exactly. It's not enough to say, I want to be healthier. What does that mean? How will your habits get you there?
So she talks about SMART goals, right? That classic framework.
She does. It's a widely used and very effective tool. SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound.
Let's break that down. Specific, not vague, like get fit.
Right. Specific is run a 5K race. Measurable, how will you know you achieved it?
Well, finish the race is measurable. Or maybe run 3 miles in under 30 minutes. Perfect. Achievable, is it realistic for you, given your current state and time frame? Starting from the couch and aiming for an ultramarathon next month is probably not achievable.
Good point. Relevant, does this goal actually matter to you? Does running align with your broader values or health objectives?
Crucial question. And time-bound, when will you achieve it by? Run a 5K race by December 1st.
That's structure. It takes a fuzzy wish and makes it concrete.
Totally. It removes ambiguity. It gives you a clear target and a deadline. That clarity is incredibly motivating. You know exactly what you're working towards with your daily habits, like your training runs.
And this SMART framework, it wasn't invented by McKey, right? It has a history.
Oh yeah, it goes back to the 1980s. George Key Doran, a management consultant. It started in the corporate world for project management, performance reviews.
Makes sense. Businesses need clear objectives.
Absolutely. But what's interesting is how it jumped from the boardroom to personal development. Productivity influencers on YouTube and other platforms in the 2020s really popularized it for personal goals.
So it proved its usefulness beyond just business targets.
Definitely. It shows that a good framework for clarity and progress works pretty much anywhere people want to achieve something specific. It stood the test of time.
And we see that impact in the real world, too. The example of U.S. entrepreneurs in Austin.
Right. Using SMART goal apps and seeing significant business growth, potentially 22% as Inc. magazine might report. Again, the specific number for 2025 is illustrative, but the principle holds.
Entrepreneurs thrive on clear targets.
They have to. Vague goals like grow the business don't cut it, but SMART goals like increase customer acquisition by 15% in Q3 or launch the new product line by June 30th. Those are actionable.
The tangibility and measurability directly drive action and allow tracking.
Exactly. It focuses effort and resources. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many personal or professional goals stall simply because they were never clearly defined? People have these vague wishes.
And then get frustrated when they don't magically happen.
Right. The SMART framework, as McKey presents it, makes goal setting approachable. It connects the dots between your big aspirations and the daily habits needed to get there.
It turns wishes into plans. Okay, so goals provide the direction, but what about the drive? What keeps you going when it gets tough?
That leads us perfectly into Chapter 4, Mastering Self-Discipline. McKey calls it the backbone of habit formation.
Self-discipline, that sounds hard. Like forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do.
Well, McKey frames it a bit differently. It's not about being rigid or joyless. It's more about cultivating focus and consistency, especially when that initial burst of motivation fades, because it will fade.
Okay, so it's the staying power.
Exactly. And she suggests strengthening it through practice. Daily discipline challenges, like intentionally avoiding distractions for a set period.
Like putting your phone in another room while you work for an hour.
Perfect example. Or resisting the urge to check email first thing in the morning. Or sticking to your planned workout even when you really don't feel like it.
It sounds like building a muscle.
That's precisely the analogy McKey uses, and it's rooted in psychological research. Self-discipline isn't a fixed trait you're born with. It's something you can develop through consistent practice.
So each time you overcome a small urge or stick to a commitment, you're doing a rep for your discipline muscle.
You got it. These small challenges build overall willpower. They increase your capacity to withstand bigger temptations or push through more significant difficulties later on. It's cumulative.
This connects to that research from the 90s, doesn't it? Roy Baumeister and willpower.
Absolutely. Baumeister's work on ego depletion was groundbreaking. The idea that willpower is a limited resource, like muscle strength. They can get tired or depleted.
So if you resist donuts in the morning meeting, it might be harder to resist surfing the web in the afternoon.
That's the core concept. Your willpower tank is lower. Now, the exact mechanisms are still debated, but the general idea holds. And McKey's approach helps manage this.
How so? By making the challenges small and incremental.
Exactly. Instead of trying to exert massive willpower all day, you build the muscle gradually with manageable exercises. This makes it less likely you'll completely drain your resources and give up when faced with a bigger challenge. You build endurance.
That makes it feel less daunting. And this ties into the example of U.S. freelancers in Los Angeles.
Right. Using focus apps like Forest to improve task completion, maybe by 25%, as Entrepreneur.com might report. Freelancers especially rely heavily on self-discipline. There's no boss looking over their shoulder.
True. They have to structure their own time and resist endless distractions at home.
And apps like Forest, which gamify focus by growing a virtual tree only if you stay off your phone, provide a tangible tool for practicing that discipline. They block distractions.
So it's not just abstract willpower, it's using tools and specific practices.
Exactly. It shows how intentional practices translate directly into measurable productivity gains. Self-discipline fuels output. It's not just a virtue, it's a practical skill with real-world rewards.
McKey's advice here feels really empowering then. Not like a lecture about being tougher, but an inspiring guide to building that inner strength gradually.
Yes, building it for lasting habits. Making discipline feel less like a chore and more like a path to achieving what you really want.
Okay, so we've covered understanding habits, changing them, setting goals, and building discipline. What about specific times of day? Does McKey focus on that?
She absolutely does. Chapter 5 is all about the power of morning routines.
Ah, the classic advice. Seize the morning.
Pretty much. McKey highlights morning routines as a really powerful way to set a positive tone for the whole day and boost overall habit formation. It creates momentum.
So it's about starting the day proactively, not reactively.
Exactly. She suggests designing a personalized morning schedule. There's no one-size-fits-all, but the psychological advantage of winning the morning is huge.
Winning the morning. How so?
When you start the day by accomplishing small, positive things, maybe meditating for 5 minutes, doing a few stretches, journaling one sentence, planning your top 3 tasks, you create an immediate sense of achievement and control.
Like banking a small win right away.
Precisely. And that feeling tends to carry through the rest of the day. It builds self-efficacy. Contrast that with rolling out of bed and immediately checking stressful emails or scrolling through social media.
Yeah, that feels like starting the day behind or already stressed, reactive.
Exactly. It raises that question. How many people start their day reacting to external demands rather than proactively choosing their focus and energy? A good morning routine shifts that dynamic.
This idea definitely gained steam in the 2000s productivity movement. Books like The 5 a.m. Club.
Right. Robin Sharma and others popularized waking early to get a head start. And then the 2020s wellness movements amplified it, adding things like mindfulness, hydration, movement.
So a routine could include elements like meditation, light exercise, maybe some reading or planning.
Any combination that works for you. The key is consistency and intentionality. It primes your mind and body for a productive, positive day. Even just 15-20 minutes can make a huge difference.
And we see this in demanding fields like the tech workers in San Francisco example.
Yeah, adopting 5 a.m. routines and potentially seeing an 18% productivity increase, as TechCrunch might report. In high-pressure jobs, starting the day with structure and focus can be a game changer.
It helps manage stress and maintain peak performance.
That's the idea. Research often shows that people with consistent morning routines report lower stress levels and better focus throughout the day. It provides an anchor. What's fascinating is seeing this pattern across different professions.
So it's not just for CEOs or monks. It's a broadly applicable principle.
Absolutely. A structured start leads to tangible benefits, whether you're a coder, a teacher, a parent, an artist.
McKey makes it sound exciting, actually. Not like a chore you have to do, but an opportunity.
Yes. She provides energizing insights and actionable steps to turn your mornings into success drivers, setting a positive trajectory for everything else.
Okay, morning routines help start strong, but what about when motivation dips later or tasks feel overwhelming? What about procrastination?
Ah, yes, the arch nemesis of productivity. McKey tackles this head-on in Chapter 6, Overcoming Procrastination.
A hurdle many people face, myself included sometimes.
We all do. McKey identifies it as a key barrier and offers practical strategies to stay on track. Her main suggestion: scheduling.
Like creating a daily task schedule.
Yes, and specifically using techniques like time blocking, dedicating specific blocks of time to specific tasks, treating them like appointments you can't miss.
So instead of a vague work-on report on the to-do list, it's 9:00 a.m. draft introduction for Q3 report.
Exactly that specific. Why does this work? Well, procrastination often stems from feeling overwhelmed or perfectionism or fear of failure.
The task just feels too big or too daunting to start.
Right. Time blocking breaks it down into manageable chunks. It also reduces decision fatigue. You don't have to decide what to work on next. It's already scheduled.
You just execute the plan. It builds a kind of psychological barrier against avoidance.
That's a great way to put it. You're not relying on spontaneous motivation. You're relying on the schedule. It provides structure against the chaos of potential distractions and urges to delay.
This connects to things like the Pomodoro technique, doesn't it? That became really popular.
Definitely. The Pomodoro technique, working in focused 25-minute bursts with short breaks, is essentially a form of time blocking. It gained huge traction in the 2010s.
Developed back in the 80s, but really took off later.
Right, and then again, the 2020s saw a wave of anti-procrastination apps that integrated these methods, making it super easy to implement time blocking or Pomodoro timers.
So the tools reinforce the strategy, and we see this helping people, like the U.S. students in New York example.
Exactly. Using time blocking apps and improving study efficiency, maybe by 20% as Fast Company might suggest, students face huge tasks: research papers, exam prep.
Which are prime candidates for procrastination due to overwhelm.
Absolutely. Breaking down study for finals into specific time-blocked sessions like review lecture notes for History 101, 1 to 2 p.m. makes it far less intimidating and much more efficient.
It leads to better focus and less last-minute cramming, presumably.
That's the goal. It raises that question again. How much potential, how much learning gets lost simply because time isn't structured effectively? Procrastination eats away at it.
McKey's approach makes it feel conquerable, though. Not like some insurmountable character flaw.
Right. Her motivating tone and practical exercises make procrastination seem manageable. It's about building systems and using techniques, not just wishing you were different, one scheduled block at a time.
Okay, managing time is crucial, but life throws curveballs. What about dealing with actual setbacks and failures? How do habits help there?
That's a critical piece, and McKey addresses it in Chapter 7, Building Resilience Through Habits.
Resilience, the ability to bounce back from challenges.
Exactly. She emphasizes developing habits that specifically help you handle setbacks. And a key tool she highlights is journaling.
Journaling to process challenges. How does that work?
She suggests reflective writing specifically about obstacles. What happened? How did I feel? What did I learn? What could I do differently next time?
So it's structured reflection, not just venting.
Precisely. It engages metacognition, thinking about your thinking. Journaling provides a space to process emotions without getting overwhelmed, to identify unhelpful thought patterns, and to brainstorm solutions.
It helps you regulate your emotional response and shift into problem-solving mode.
You got it. It externalizes the problem, making it easier to analyze objectively. What's fascinating is how this simple habit can have such profound psychological benefits: perspective, coping skills, self-awareness.
This sounds connected to the work on learned optimism, like Martin Seligman's research from the 90s.
Very much so. Seligman showed that optimism, and therefore resilience, isn't just innate. It can be learned by changing how we explain setbacks to ourselves, our explanatory style.
So instead of thinking, I failed because I'm useless, thinking, I failed because I didn't prepare enough this time and next time I can.
Exactly. Shifting from permanent, pervasive, personal explanations to temporary, specific, external ones where possible. Journaling helps practice that reframing. These ideas heavily influence self-help and mental health approaches later on.
Building positive coping habits helps shift your whole outlook. And the example of U.S. startup founders in Denver, that's powerful.
It really is. Journaling setbacks allowed them to pivot and gain significant funding, as Business Insider might report. Founders face constant rejection and failure.
Resilience is practically a job requirement.
Absolutely. Those who can process setbacks constructively, learn from them, and adapt their strategy are the ones who often succeed. Journaling is a tool for that processing.
It shows resilience isn't just about bouncing back, but bouncing forward, using the setback as fuel.
Perfectly said. It demonstrates that constructively handling challenges leads not just to personal growth, but can have massive professional and financial payoffs. It turns obstacles into opportunities.
McKey's tone here is really supportive, making resilience feel attainable. The stories and strategies are inspiring.
Yeah, she offers practical ways to foster habits that build that inner strength, helping you navigate life's inevitable bumps more effectively.
Okay, so we've covered a lot about internal states, discipline, resilience. What about the world around us? Does that play a role?
Oh, massively. Chapter 8 is the role of environment and habits. McKey explores how our surroundings significantly shape our behaviors.
We often underestimate that, don't we? We think it's all about willpower.
We do, but our environment constantly sends us cues, making certain actions easier and others harder. McKey urges us to consciously design supportive spaces.
Like decluttering your workspace. That's one activity she suggests.
Yes, think about the psychological impact. A cluttered desk creates visual noise, distraction. A clean, organized space promotes focus. It's a direct environmental influence.
And it goes beyond clutter, right? It's about the cues.
Absolutely. Ease of access is huge.
Yeah.
If your running shoes are buried in the back of the closet, that's friction. If they're right by the door, that's a cue and reduces friction.
If the healthy snacks are at eye level in the fridge and the cookies are hidden away,
You're much more likely to grab the snacks. Your environment is nudging you. It raises that question. How much does our physical space unconsciously dictate our actions every single day?
it's probably more than we think. This ties into the minimalism trend from the 2000s, like Marie Kondo.
Exactly. Kondo linked decluttering directly to mental clarity and a better life. The idea that your outer environment reflects and affects your inner state.
And then remote work in the 2020s forced millions of people to suddenly become very aware of their home office environment.
Totally. Suddenly your kitchen table was your office, and you realized how much the crying baby or the pile of laundry nearby impacted your focus. Home office optimization became a huge topic.
Simple tweaks make a difference, putting your phone charger away from your bed, setting up a dedicated workspace.
Precisely. And the example of U.S. remote workers in Seattle, optimizing home offices and boosting focus.
By 22%, according to Harvard Business Review, potentially.
It shows that intentional design works. Minimizing distractions, having good lighting, creating clear zones, it directly translates to better concentration and output.
What's fascinating is that ripple effect. A better workspace leads to better focus, maybe less stress, better work-life balance.
Exactly. It's not just about productivity in the moment, it's about overall well-being. Investing in your environment is investing in your habits and yourself.
McKey makes it very actionable. Clear tips for connecting your space to habit success. Design your environment to make the good habits easy and the bad habits hard.
That's the essence of it. Use friction strategically.
Okay, environment is key. What about the people in our environment? Social influences.
Another powerful, often underestimated factor. Chapter 9 covers social influences on habit formation.
Our friends, family, colleagues, they impact our habits.
Profoundly. McKey highlights how our social circles shape us, encouraging us to consciously connect with positive influences.
So the people we hang out with can either help or hinder our habits.
Definitely. She suggests evaluating your relationships for support. Think about social contagion. Behaviors and attitudes spread through networks.
Like if all your friends smoke, it's harder to quit. Or if they all exercise regularly, it feels more normal to join in.
Exactly. Peer groups, mentors, communities, they set norms. They provide accountability or they provide temptation. If you're trying to save money but your friends constantly push expensive outings, that's tough.
It forces you to constantly exert willpower against the social grain.
Right. Connecting this to the bigger picture, it's about curating your social input, just like you curate information. Who are you spending time with? Do they align with the person you want to become?
This links to emotional intelligence research, like Daniel Goleman's work in the 2000s, emphasizing social awareness.
Yes, understanding social dynamics is key. And then in the 2020s, online communities on platforms like X, formerly Twitter, or specialized forums show the power of virtual networks for habit formation.
People finding accountability partners or support groups online for fitness, writing, coding.
Exactly. Shared goals and mutual support, even virtually, can be incredibly powerful. Joining a running club, a study group, a professional association, these create positive social ecosystems for specific habits.
And the example of U.S. professionals in Miami joining mastermind groups.
And improving habit adherence by 25%, as Entrepreneur.com might report. Mastermind groups are built on mutual accountability and support among peers striving for similar goals.
That structure provides the push and encouragement needed to stick with challenging habits.
Absolutely. Accountability to others is often a stronger motivator than just accountability to ourselves. It raises that question. How many people struggle alone when finding the right community could be the key?
Trying to change in isolation is just harder.
Much harder. McKey's delivery here is really engaging. She makes social strategies relatable and provides practical ways to build habits through positive networks, not in spite of negative ones.
Leverage the power of connection. Okay, we're nearing the end of the journey in the book. What's the final piece?
The final chapter, chapter 10, is crucial. Sustaining long-term habits. It's not just about starting, it's about lasting.
The marathon, not the sprint.
Exactly. McKey offers strategies for maintenance, specifically mentioning periodic goal and habit reviews. You can't just set it and forget it.
So habits need ongoing attention.
They do. She suggests creating a habit maintenance plan. This tackles the issue of habit drift. Even strong habits can weaken over time if they aren't reinforced or adjusted.
Like achieving a fitness goal and then slowly slipping back into old ways because the goal is done.
Precisely. It happens all the time. People hit their target weight, run the marathon, finish the project, and then the habits that got them there fade because the immediate driver is gone.
So maintenance is as important as initiation? Maybe more so?
Arguably, yes. It requires active monitoring. Are these habits still serving me? Do my goals need adjusting? Am I facing new obstacles? It's a dynamic process.
This ties into the 2010s work on sustainability, like James Clear's Atomic Habits.
Yes. Clear heavily emphasizes consistency and small, sustainable improvements over the long haul. Making habits easy, attractive, obvious. Satisfying those principles apply to maintenance too.
And the productivity tools of the 2020s often included features for long-term tracking, review reminders, progress charts.
Right, reinforcing that long view.
Right.
A maintenance plan might include scheduling monthly check-ins, setting reminders to review your goals quarterly, or having pre-planned strategies for when you inevitably fall off track, because everyone does sometimes.
Having a plan for setbacks is key, rather than letting one slip up derail everything.
Crucial. And the example of U.S. small business owners in Atlanta using habit trackers.
And sustaining 20% business growth per Inc. magazine, potentially.
It shows that consistent application leads to sustained results. Growth isn't usually from one big breakthrough. It's from the compound effect of consistently doing the right things day after day, year after year. Tracking helps maintain that consistency.
True success comes from those daily actions, repeated over time.
That's the core message. McKey's close is really inspiring. She provides a visionary approach, helping ensure the habits you build become lasting parts of who you are, supporting your success and well-being for a lifetime.
It's about integration, not just implementation. Wow, okay, so let's try and synthesize this. What does this all mean for you listening right now?
Well, we've taken quite a journey through Zoe McKey's Rewire Your Habits, from understanding the basic mechanics.
The cue, routine, reward loop, the need for identification.
She's the science of actually changing behavior replacement. Tiny habits.
To aligning those habits with clear, smart goals, building self-discipline like a muscle.
Leveraging morning routines, tackling procrastination with structure.
Building resilience through journaling, optimizing your environment, harnessing social support.
And finally, planning for long-term sustainability. Yeah. It's a really comprehensive roadmap.
It really is. And the core message seems to be that habits aren't fixed. They're malleable.
Exactly. They're not just things that happen to us. They are powerful tools we can actively shape. Tools for productivity, well-being, resilience, achieving our goals.
And with the right understanding and strategies like the ones McKey provides, anyone can learn to rewire them.
Anyone. It takes effort, yes, and consistency, but it's accessible. And that knowledge is most valuable when it's put into action, right?
Absolutely. Theory is great, but application is where the change happens. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Think about just one small habit. Maybe something you've wanted to start, like drinking more water, or something you've wanted to stop, like checking your phone right before bed.
Okay. Got one in mind.
Right. Now, considering everything we've discussed today, the science, the tiny steps, the environment, the goals, what is the absolute tiniest first step you could take today? to begin rewiring that habit.
Something almost laughably small, as BJ Fogg would say.
Exactly. Don't overwhelm yourself. Just identify that single tiny first action. Maybe it's putting a glass of water by your bed tonight. Maybe it's charging your phone across the room.
That first small step can be the start of a whole new trajectory.
It really can. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Zoe McKey's Rewire Your Habits.
It's been a fascinating discussion. We hope you found it valuable.
We really hope it's empowered and inspired you to explore the incredible power of habits in your own life. Keep experimenting, keep learning.
And join us next time for another exploration.
We'll see you then, right here on Book Podcast Zone.